Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance, your home on the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network for any and all things Star Wars. And I just realized that live didn't go live as I started the intro, so I'm going to run that one more time just so Clay has a clean audio version. So, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance, your home on the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network for any and all things Star Wars. I'm your host, as always, Katie. And with me is Clay. Clay, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, which I just realized. Do you now have a baby mat in your office?
I do.
Okay.
So,
I was like, that was not there before.
no.
I
My mom had two extras because they were trying to baby proof their house. And
uh
then they got a bunch of rugs and didn't need the play mats, but it was too late to send them back to Amazon. So she
nice.
offered them to Matt and I because if you are in America, then you know how much of a struggle finding a daycare is.
Yes.
Matt and I have been on 3 wait lists since I was 12 weeks pregnant. Um,
Holy crap.
and we were told that we're not likely to get a spot until January. So,
Wow.
yeah. So we're trying to. We have spent the past 2 days of the week trying to integrate. I'm in my office. We're working with baby. We're like, do we need to do part-time nanny and then just mega stagger our hours because nanny is expensive too. And
Yes.
so we're
Yes, they
like,
can be.
I'll work 5 to 2 and then he'll work 11 to X amount of time, whatever, to get our 8 hours in.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we both work remote. So we're going to have to play things by ear and just see how it goes. But Star Wars.
Yes, Star Wars. We have surprisingly some news, not a lot. We have some news
Yes.
this week, and we have one hell of an episode to talk about.
Yes, we
Now,
do.
there's a little bit of controversy within the episode. I have seen overall a positive reaction to the episode. I have my own personal qualms with the episode. I did like it though. A little bit of spoilers there. Um but their criticism I think is the better word, not necessarily qualms. But yeah, there was a little bit of a a very silly like conversation in the GUA chat immediately after the episode. Um it was something that I feel like we as the network blew up way out of proportion when it came to how long of a conversation we had about
It's
that.
because Snell is a pessimist, doesn't like anything.
I, this time I'm not the one that said it. Katie was. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Katie, what do you want to start off with?
All right. Okay. So, let's see. Let's talk about Sean Levy's Star Wars film. Um, his script is apparently moving forward, and it is with Jonathan Tropper, who wrote The Atom Project. I'm a fan of this. I loved The Atom Project. It was full of heart, some jokes in there, but I didn't feel like it was a Ryan Reynolds jokey type thing. So it was they flowed all with the script. And the main point was that it had a lot of heart in it, and it introduced us to our Percy Jackson. So, you know what? I think that's a pretty good deal.
I was also a really big fan of the Atom Project. I think it was one of the only Netflix movies in quite some time that I was actually able to watch, like either the day of or at least the week of release.
Yes.
Really, really fun. I did like the humor. I liked the I guess the what's the phrasing that I'm looking for? I guess family audience drama that it is. Like
Yeah.
it's not too it wasn't too dark, because there was dark moments in the movie
Yeah.
for sure, but it wasn't so dark that you couldn't sit down with your family and watch it, you know? So I like the overall feel of that movie. And if that is what we are aiming towards when it comes to Sean's movie, it gets me very interested, because the Adam Project, like I just said, although not a kids movie, it was a fun movie.
Yeah.
So when transitioning that to that of the universe of Star Wars, what does that entail? What audience are they directly aiming? Is it going to be, we keep hearing which is the other part of the news, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it here because I think it's hilarious. Lucasfilm is working on an animated series. It's like or animated project. It's like, when are they not working on an animated project?
Yeah.
Like, come on now. But like, could Sean be working on an animated movie? Star Wars animated movie? Have we even put that into consideration? Have they specifically said live action film?
No, they haven't, but I don't like Star Wars hasn't done a lot of animated movies.
No, they haven't. Like, I don't think they've done any. So
the only one would be the Clone Wars movie, which was the lead up into the TV show. It was kind of like to test the waters there and stuff. I did not know Sean Levy directed Night at the Museum.
Yes. Yeah, that was one of his other out-of-pocket movies. Yeah.
He directed the Pink Panther 2? 2 as in TOO. Like OMG.
Okay.
That's like one of my favorite movies of all time. So interesting. This is like your picture into my film. Like, I didn't watch Terminator or Jurassic Park growing up. I watched the Pink Panther. So the reason I was looking up his filmography is I was trying to see if he had directed any animated pictures. And it doesn't look like he has.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it was just a random thought, just because of, I think that his style of filmmaking would actually kind of work as animated. Now, again, it does bring up the question: the Adam Project, Sean, do we complete the trio? Is Ryan Reynolds gonna make his debut in a Star Wars movie?
I don't care if he does. Like, I love Ryan Reynolds. My mom would finally watch a new Star Wars, like after The Rise of Skywalker. Like, she would go to the theater for a Star Wars with Ryan Reynolds in it. Obviously, some people think he's too popular for Star Wars, but
I think, okay, so here's I can't say here's the line that I draw, because I think that if you try something and it works, then it just fucking works, So Master Endara, okay? Freaking Trinity herself.
Yep.
There are times in this show, I think once or twice, especially in this episode that we're going to be talking about tonight, I only see the actor. I don't see Master Endara. But I like the character of Master Endara, and the only iteration of the character that we have seen is here in the show. So it works. Now, if people are going to say, oh, well, that kind of comedy that Ryan does just doesn't work in Star Wars, then you guys have not seen a single episode of the freaking Clone Wars. And you have never seen The Phantom Menace and Jar Jar Binks. Or you have never seen a scene with C-3PO and R2-D2. Like, it is there all the time.
We like to talk about this a lot, but George Lucas always meant Star Wars to be for kids. Sure, would we like some adult projects and everything? Yes. But the kids of the 80s and the 90s liked a different product than the kids of the thousands, the tens, and now the 20s.
Exactly.
Point blank. So entertainment is going to change, but it's always still meant to be for kids. So, and y'all can complain about that all you want, but like that's the point. And now we've talked at length about, can Star Wars go R-rated? I think there's also an opportunity for that in this universe, but Ryan Reynolds lives by his wit and his improvisation.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the family-friendly aspect for today's society. So, and the Adam Project, like we talked about, family-friendly movie. So,
yeah. So I think that it is still something that we have to consider with the fact that Ryan might be in the Star Wars universe. It's just something to think about. Again, just because Sean makes a movie does not mean Ryan has to be in it. But let's face it, let's look at all the movies that Sean has made in the last few years. And well, you know, Ryan's just kind of there all the time. So,
but I also think in that regard too, they've also shown that they work really well together.
Yes.
So it's not like we're forced into this partnership because I work with Warner Bros. And he works with Warner Bros. And they have to be in the movie kind of thing. No, they really enjoy working together. Like, they have, like, this is what they've been doing. So I'm completely on board. I don't see, if Ryan Reynolds is in Sean Levy's movie, I don't see that being a bad thing. Because
I don't see it being a bad thing either.
Together.
I was going to say, there's, with there being more chemistry on set, that just means there's more magic in the movie.
Yeah.
Is the way I see it. So that is that. I'm trying to see if there was anything else that was in like the realm of Sean's movie that came out, because I feel like there was maybe one more thing, or is that it?
I don't think so. I think that was it.
Okay.
So if you are paying attention to book releases, DK had a book release on Tuesday, so yesterday when we're recording this. It is entitled The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. It's by Chris Kimpshaw, but it is an in-universe history book about the Galactic Empire, and it is written by, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. It's Pippin, Merry and Pippin. That guy in The Rise of Skywalker. Huh?
Oh,
yes, it's written in our universe by Chris Kimpshaw, but the in-universe writing is from it's the Hobbit
character
in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about.
I didn't know that was the perspective that we were going to be getting in this book.
Yes. So, and Skywalker, A Family at War does something very similar, where they use an in-universe perspective, and it's a journalist chronicling the Skywalker family.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta know his name now. This is gonna bug me.
I have not picked this up yet. I am waiting until payday. And then I will get this. I know that have you received yours yet?
Yes, it's in my book bag because I took it to physical therapy today.
Okay, okay.
um, so it's over there. I can't pull it out, but yes,
Now,
I got
the
it.
the one thing that I was a little disappointed in, I'm not sure if they are planning on getting one out. I did already search Audible. There is not a uh audiobook for this novel yet. Doesn't mean that there's
Uh,
not going to be one, but
I
who knows?
don't believe DK does audiobooks because they're typically resource based
Yeah.
material. So I don't think they'll be doing an audiobook.
Damn it. Oh well.
Yeah,
This just means I
Skywalker, a
have to do it
family.
the old-fashioned way.
I know. So much fun, isn't it? Skywalker, a family at war does not have an audiobook. So,
Okay.
and that was published in 2021.
Good to know.
And Beaumont Kin is the guy's name.
Okay. Now, there was also a uh unofficial book release. I thought this was kind of cool.
Yes.
There was this person by the name of Trevor Davey. He says, proud to announce I've written a book, The Definitive Star Wars Legends Timeline. Compiled here for the first time in print is my life's work, the complete timeline order of every single Star Wars story ever written between 1976 and 2014. Uh, of course, I love that it has unauthorized in the
Yes.
Legends
Yes.
logo print up top. I think that is very, very clever. The An unofficial guide to every Legends Star Wars story told. Um, if this is like mass market, I will definitely try to find my hands, like try to find it. Because it just sounds like a really fun thing for somebody who is more often than not just trying to get the cliff notes of legend stories, unless of course we are covering it here on the show. I think this would be very fun for me to kind of just get highlights of the legends timeline itself. But yeah, I thought this was really cool.
So currently it is not available like on your typical booksellers. He's only self-published this. So he has a link in his bio for Lulu. Um and we could potentially leave that in the show notes for you guys if you guys are interested in that. But it's $20 on that website. Um and he said he's looking into putting it on Amazon. So that's kind of some details
Awesome.
on it, but he's got some sample pages on his Twitter. But once I get back to getting a paycheck, this is definitely a must-have purchase for me. Like I love this. Like you guys should see all the timeline because every mass market Legends book has a timeline in it.
Yes.
And so what I did over the years, and these are only it's like the canon books, so it's only a timeline of Del Rey, Random House Worlds, Bantam House Publishing's books. It doesn't have like the young adult books or anything in it. But like there's random books in my collection of the mass markets that have books crossed out on the timeline because that is how I kept track of which books I had in the series.
Oh, okay. It was your own personal like checklist, basically.
Yeah. And
Okay.
there's literally because I would take the newest book that I had because they were always publishing them at because I collected them from like 2002 to now because I only just finished my collection recently. But like every time I got the newest book, I would go back through all the books because that was the most up to date way. Because like I couldn't print out the Wikipedia timeline. or anything.
Yeah.
But still, like, I have all these books, and you could see them all because I would highlight. I highlighted the last one, but like the whole thing's broken out in the timeline, and he has it down to like a science. Like, he's got like Dawn of the Jedi #1, The Force Storm, and then 1 through 5, The Tale of the Iowa Pod, like short stories from the Republic Commando game guide. Like, super impressed. Trevor is the keeper of the timelines for utini.com. So he keeps the canon timeline, he keeps the Legends timeline. So he's very well versed in this, and he also is the co-host of the Star Wars Archive Pod for Utini. So Andrew and Travis are in the chat. Hello, guys.
Yes, hello. Speaking of unofficial releases, did you also see that somebody made their own personal hardcover for all of the unreleased High Republic Japan stories?
No, I did not see that.
I know that our fellow friend of the podcast, Chris, from Minot Manor, he had commented on it, and that's the only reason why I even saw it. So I need to look for that one real quick.
While you look for that, I'm going to share this update on Furor, which is, we've talked about it on the podcast before. It's a Random House Worlds publication. It is rumored to be a Star Wars novel, but it is back on the website, and it's got a movie and TV tie-ins tag on it now. So it's even more like, okay, this is Star Wars now.
The pot is definitely stirring here. I thought it was hilarious when you posted this. People, I love how Star Wars fans are so on top of this.
Right?
Again, there was barely even an inkling of science fiction when this first came out, and they're like, Star Wars. And like, they ever since then, they've put on their tinfoil hats, and they're like, new Star Wars book. I don't know. I think this is how, the same way that the GUA usually feels when it comes to movies that just have kept getting delayed. I can't believe any of this until I actually see a date, a title, and a cover page. Like, that's how.
Well, the date is on there. It says February 25th of next year.
Okay.
So there's a date. Hopefully, with San Diego Comic-Con in a couple of weeks, we will get an update, but also potentially New York Comic-Con. And then, like Tom has always said, they'll release it kind of when they feel is best. But with it hitting close to the 6-month mark, I could imagine we'll see some details at San Diego Comic-Con. So
yeah. So I ended up finding it. It's the Star Wars Legacy Reader, Star Wars Books and Media. It says the Vow of the Silver Dawn hardcover is completed. 15 months of work completed. 324 chapters translated. Version of this Chinese exclusive High Republic novel can now sit with all the others. I am sharing it on the screen so you can see it. This is a personally made hardcover. This looks amazing.
Ooh. I'm so impressed.
I am so impressed. This looks official. And I love, of course, this type of hardcover is what you would see from that of guys, if you don't remember, in the first 2 waves, a lot of the adult novels got a secondary cover, which was a hardcover with either a what do they call them?
The dust jackets.
The dust jackets, or but this one is not a dust jacket. This is
Yeah.
this is the actual like book hardcover with the art on it. It looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And this person says here on his page, it says this was a long project, artwork formatting, checking all took a very long time to finalize. A big thank you to official Wookiee official, as the Silver Dawn page was a godsend with final checks. This could not be this could be first completed Silver Dawn book, and no, it's not for sale. So this person, like, they get to reap the benefits of their hard work in a very, very cool way. Just saw that and I was like, man, for the fact that there's two unofficial, like, people are crazy. This is how crazy Star Wars fans are. They're making their literally their own book, which is, I think, is
Yeah.
really, really cool.
And he's actually got the text for the Battle of the Silver Dawn translated.
Yeah.
Somebody else translated it, and he just took it, proofread it, and put it in a book. I'm so impressed. Like,
Yeah.
God, I wish I had this talent.
So looking at the rest of the news, we do have the oh shoot, where was it? Other book news is that we are getting a lightsaber collection
for the High Republic.
For the High Republic. This is really, really fun. As a kid, I loved when my mom was either like going in to get us something or getting a gift for somebody else. I love to go to either like the DC, Marvel, or Star Wars sections and having the giant encyclopedias and looking at all the pictures and everything. But I love what Star Wars publishing has, or Lucasfilm publishing has always done for Star Wars in the sense of their lightsabers, is they literally break apart in a 3D model how to build a lightsaber. And I love also that Star Wars books and comics calls out cosplayers, prop nerds, and other interested parties can get this book from Insight Editions on October 29th. I love that they call that out because you know for a fact people are going to try and replicate this to a T.
Yep.
And I love people and their art for that.
Yep, 100%. This was originally scheduled for publication in April, and it did get delayed to October 29th. But we got some preview pages out for it, which has it has the table of contents, and then, of course, some of the sabers, which include Emmerich Kaftor, who is the basically the private investigator for the Jedi, Mathia Catley, who's the Twi'lek in the High Republic Phase 2 comic wave, the Padawan there, and then Porter Ingle's lightsaber, which I love that they put Porter's up here because they know that's going to be so popular. So,
yes.
Really good work. I have already got this pre-ordered, so very excited.
Yes, very, very fun.
So the other news that we've kind of talked about already, but Lucasfilm is hiring a producer to work on an animated project for Lucasfilm. This is not a new announcement for an animated show. This is simply they're hiring somebody to work on an animated project. So
there has been a lot of people that have basically said this is going to be the Asajj Ventress project.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that's pretty accurate?
I think that's how they set it up. And unfortunately, as we're all like, can we please move away from the Dark Times era for a little bit, at least, please. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they set up Asajj Ventress for a reason in the Bad Batch. And I think they're just slowly going to begin tying all of the knots to get to the Obi-Wan Kenobi show and then to Andor. I think that's just what they're going to be doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, just because of the way we have seen Star Wars work with comics, audiobooks, movies, television, and everything else, one thing will always answer another in the sense of how does this connect to that? And the more gaps that they create, the more gaps that they have to feel like they have to fill. So now that there is a gap between Bad Batch and Obi-Wan, they will fill that up. Same thing will go for Andor. There is like the possibility also Omega. Like she has, a place in that spot as well. So like I do think it would be very interesting to see if this is going to be the path. Like if this is going to be a show about the path. If that is so, then you could highlight both Asajj and Omega, because I truly think if Omega found out about the path, then she would definitely want to help out.
Yeah. And I mean, you've got Asajj, you've got Quinlan, and you could even build in some of the characters that we got in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show by telling their story before that. And I think the path is something interesting that Lucasfilm can choose to do in that era. That's not just clones. That's not just, hey, here's the Empire. Like, you're telling the Jedi story, which will get you that lightsaber effect and everything. And I mean, heck, you can throw in a little romance with Asajj and Quinlan. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
Wink, wink. Nod, nod.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I think there's a lot of potential with the Path show. I do wish that Lucasfilm hopefully gets on board with what Marvel's doing, where they're like, we can release multiple animated shows in a year and not just drop one show that's not even really a show because it's only 6 episodes all on one day.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a long time since I've even done any research with Marvel Studios. They have a co-department for specifically animated stuff, right? A co-studio.
I think they just introduced that, yes.
Okay. Lucasfilm, if they don't already, should definitely be doing that. They've been working with animation for far too long to not even have already considered doing so. Because of that purpose, to have more than one project. You can't tell me, oh, people will get confused. It's freaking Star Wars. It doesn't matter. Like, you like, we are now in 2024 with all of this technology. I think people are now smart enough to know if one show comes out and then another one comes out within the same year, I'm not going to automatically think, oh, this is season 2 of the other show that I just watched with just a different name. Like, no.
Well, and I think their other concern is something, oh my gosh, what's that director's name? He did Pinocchio. Anyways, he won the Oscar for it and was like, I hope this teaches people, like, I really want people to
Guillermo
understand.
del Toro.
Yes, thank you. Guillermo said, animation is a medium. It is not specifically for kids. And I think studios are still reluctant to admit that it can be for multiple generations. So I think that's the biggest problem that Lucasfilm has right now. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously we still got Visions. I'm assuming we're getting a season 3 there. I know the Tales of the X is going to keep going. Like, that just is something super easy for Lucasfilm to do. And clearly Dave Filoni is going to use it to plug in some filler details for characters in his future shows. So
Yeah.
that's going to keep going. But animated projects, and Young Jedi Adventures. We know we're getting a season 2 for that. That's coming in August, I think. So I'm looking forward to whatever they decide to put out, but it would be nice to get some information.
And I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there again. Again, we've always say this whenever a animated show idea comes up. You can just set one in the High Republic era. You know, I know we have Young Jedi Adventures, but if you were to put that Clone Wars or Rebels style storytelling within the High Republic, I think it would do great. Just putting it out there
The
into the universe
Firebrands
again.
Are Stellan, Avar, Elzar trio. Like, come on.
Yes, 100%.
So are we ready to get to the episode now?
I think that is all of the news. So yes, I think we are ready for episode 7, which I think is titled Choice. All right, Katie, you lead us off with this one. You were, I think, one of the first people to watch it in our chat this week.
I know, I was on time and then Disney Plus broke several times. So, you know, I only get so lucky with the baby Disney Plus. Like, come on. Okay, I think we got to get this out of the way first. We just got to get this out of the way and not have this be the last part of our discussion. What did you think of the power of 2 in the credits?
Okay, I'm so glad that this is the first topic of discussion, because if I was leading the conversation, I would immediately go with this, because I don't really think it's like the thing that we need to leave the audience on.
Correct.
Because it's a little bit of an elephant in the room. I will admit. Is it different? Yes, 100%. It is not something that you're used to when everything fades to black on a Star Wars show. You don't immediately hear modern earthly pop music. You hear that Star Wars theme, or like you just hear John Williams. That's it. Like, and then boom, you know, it's done.
Or the composer for the show.
Or the composer of the show. Yes, correct. So that is usually what happens. Here, we, and of course Travis is like, oh well, I didn't know, so I'm not included in that we, blah blah blah. The general audience was made aware through social media.
Correct.
That this particular song was going to be making its way onto the show's credits soon. I don't know if they specifically said the penultimate episode, but they did say it was supposed to be meant for one specific episode. So we knew it was coming. I had already listened to a bit of the song, so I immediately recognized it. And then I actually got to hear the rest of the song with the credits. Do I like the song? Yes. The song implications to what transpired on this episode do not match. And I think that's the biggest problem that I have. But that will go along with the discussion of the episode. But the music itself, I think that it's something that, hey, Leslie wanted to probably try. Lucasfilm was bold enough to be like, hey, you know what? Let's do it. This song is excellent for what the story you were telling in the show. So yes, let's go ahead and do it. I don't mind if it plays again, or if in a future show it happens again. But it's not like I listened to it or heard it and I was like, the death of Star Wars is among us. No, like it like honestly, what did it catch you off guard? Like, how do you feel about it, Katie?
Like you said, we knew it was coming, so it really did not bug me in the slightest. Um, and the the music of the song was done with the composer for the show. So like he helped with the artistry and like
And
I
the
do
themes
think
and everything else. So that
yeah,
makes sense.
and I think the lyrics are going to make sense. We may have to do like a deep dive, that may be a topic that we go into after the show and try and
Uh-huh.
see if we can interpret the lyrics and like match it up a little bit, because I have some ideas about where things may be going with the song.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't want to like focus too much on that with this. Um, so it didn't bug me. I don't mind it when shows try new things or when brands try new things, because it means you're trying to not manipulate, but like go with how we talked about how the kids form of entertainment has changed over the generations. You're
Yeah.
trying to grow with your audience. And I think that this was a good move because you're opening yourself up to Monet's audience, because she promoted it like this is something that she had put a lot of thought into and was like, I'm honored to join the musicians of Star Wars. Like she was like thrilled by this. Um so I think it was a good choice, and it hearing it in the credits, it kind of made me excited for what's to come in the last episode, because like with the rest of the live action Disney Plus shows, we've gotten a more artistic credit than what we're getting with the Acolyte. The Acolyte, it's just been a name on the screen, like job, like keep going.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what is going to happen in the next episode, and I think it gave the credits for the Acolyte something new and exciting. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I again, I like the song. It liked me the song enough to see what other music that the artist had. And I think
Yeah.
that's the main goal, clearly, for her as a musician. So I think it worked.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and I think with it being R&B too, it still flows in the credits because it's not just like pop. It's
yeah.
more fluid. Not that pop isn't fluid, but you know what I mean. Like,
It's very thematic. I'll say that.
yeah.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and well, I'll go ahead and ask you this. Last week we talked about what we wanted for this episode. You said you wanted a narration. We didn't get a narration. We got an actual
Correct.
flashback. Now seeing the episode, do you have any animosity towards it being a flashback, or like do you still wish there was some sort of connection to what is still going on?
Kind of a bit of both. I feel like we kind of retread too much in this flashback. I get we were seeing it from the Jedi's perspective and not the twins' perspective.
Yeah, it was it
100%.
was it was the connective tissue, if you will.
Yes. Because we had seen in episode 3, Destiny, we had seen where we were missing some things. And this episode definitely does fill those bits in. But it still does retread some things. I I figured this was where we were going, that we weren't going to get a narration, even though I would have liked that to happen. I do also feel like this is a little late in the season for this to happen, even though it fits between these two episodes because of Soul telling, like going, I need to get this off my chest kind of thing. But for 8 episodes, this is too late in the season.
Yeah, I mean, when we get to like the climax of the episode, when shit is starting to really hit the fan, like you can kind of feel like, oh, like okay, things are starting to get good. We now know why things happen the way that they did. It feels really odd if you were to binge this show to be like, hey, the next episode is the last episode.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what? Like I feel like when I rewatch this, not if, it is going to feel that way. I think this episode would have done very well in a combined episode with episode
Yeah.
3. If it was, again, the problem with we had our little monologues last week about the, future of television being 8 episodes every other year or whatever, like, and them only being 30 minutes long. This is the problem. This could have been its own little mini movie, seeing all the perspectives, getting all of the information, and then moving forward and being like, okay, we know what's on the table for both of these parties. Let's see how it all falls apart.
But I think that also this is where I see both sides to it. This is where the mystery element of the show, like this is your Benoit Blanc is telling you exactly what he's figured out
True.
moment. 15 minutes left in the movie, like this is where we're at.
Yeah.
So I get it. But in a TV show, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Like if this was 12 episodes, if this was like Andor and this was 12 episodes long and you tell me there's a flashback episode right in the middle of the show, I totally get it. Like I can see it. But you spent a fourth of your season in flashbacks.
Yeah.
Like why? And I get it because it's a mystery and you need to tell the story. But yeah, it's just and I think this is more Lucasfilm limiting Leslie versus Leslie with her writer's room issue. I think Leslie in the writer's room did the best with what they had.
Yeah.
Point blank. Unfortunately.
Yeah. But we get like you said, the Jedi's perspective. We now know why they were even on the planet to begin with.
High Republic reference, the great hyperspace disaster.
Yes, I love this reference. It gets people interested in like, oh, what is that? And if people do go down that rabbit hole, there's plenty of books to read. So there's that. But we learn that they're on a mission to find something called a vergence. A vergence is a force phenomenon that basically creates life. Like there is so much force energy that it creates life. And Torben is like, okay, cool. There's plants. What of it? We now know. Well, we still don't know. That's the thing about this as well. There was a lot of answers, but still there's a few questions that I have here.
Yes.
Because we still know that, there is a mystery behind how the children were made. Because, of course, Mother Coral said something in the very beginning of the season. We get some hints at it in this episode, but not a flat out answer. So
let's go back to the virgins really fast because you said something and I just want to clarify. It doesn't have to create life. So the Jedi temple on Coruscant was on top of a vergence. And that's why Palpatine chooses to move his Imperial Palace into it for the Galactic Empire. And vergences have come up in several different books as well as the Clone Wars and everything. But like the Wikipedia article for virgins actually even says the Skywalker lightsaber acts like a virgin's because it's filled with all the history and memories, and that's what happens when Rey touches it in The Force Awakens. So it's just a location of pure Force energy. So there's light-sided virginses, and then there's dark-sided virginses. The cave on Dagobah was a dark-sided virgins.
Yeah.
So just to kind of clarify that.
Yeah.
So it can create life. It doesn't have to.
Yeah, it can create life. Now, with the now assumed creation of children, there is a quick assumption from both Indara and, well, I guess the assumption first came from Soul, because he's the one that verbalized it. He's like, hey, these kids could have been created out of the virgins.
Mm-hmm.
And we are jumping around here, but I want to stay focused on this one little thing, because this is what kind of made things hit the fan in the first place. Yep. So when they learn, because they eventually take the blood samples, we already saw this from the other side, from the perspective of the children, we see that Torben in this episode is actually looking at those results. And we learn that these kids have the exact same DNA. And Indara was like, "Oh, they're twins. Yeah, that happens." And Torben's like, "No. Twins, even twins have like a slight like change in what these numbers show. This is the exact same."
Yeah, I don't know if it's precisely DNA, because he specifically says symbionts, and I was confused by that.
Yeah, so he makes the comment about their M count first, and then I can't remember the exact verbiage he used for the other thing.
He says their symbionts are the same, and then that's when Indara says, well, they're twins, and he's like, yeah, but they're the exact same. Even twins shouldn't have the exact same symbionts. And I Googled what symbionts was, and it's not very clear. It's like it's a fungoid that helps create life, according to Wikipedia.
Huh. That's weird. Yeah. I immediately just assumed DNA.
That's what I did too, but then when I watched it again, I was like, what?
I mean, the words are specific for a reason. But then they had the idea that the kids were made from somebody else. And I think that the kids and Jodie Turner-Smith, Mother
Anastasia,
I think they're all one person. And there was a hint at it in this episode. I don't know if you caught it.
Where was the hint?
So, when Mother Anastasia does her like oogie spooky ghost thing that like almost terrified me at freaking 11 p.m. at night, she starts to disperse into like literally dust and like particles, and she is like,
yeah, but Coral does that too.
So, no. So May started to disappear when Anastasia started.
Oh, you're right. Oh.
So I think that the only way that they were able to create the child or the children was to connect them in some way. And I think it's literally like either like soul energy or whatever Star Wars verbiage you want to throw in there. I think they are Mother and Nisa, but as children.
That's interesting. I've seen like tons of theories like on Twitter, but nobody has said that one.
Yeah.
Oh.
I kind of thought about it the first time, but when I saw it the second time today, rewatching it before we started recording, I specifically wanted to see if it wasn't just like a little bit of Anissa kind of like trying to reach for May. No,
Yeah.
May was literally starting to like dissipate.
Ooh.
So
I know. So Chimere's not in this episode, but like I'm even more like, why is Chimere so interested in them? Like, and now that makes me wonder even more. Like, why is he so interested in them? Like, not just because of the virgins, but like, huh? Okay, that's interesting.
yeah, like it was just a really weird thing. It's a weird phenomenon for sure, even in like Star Wars terms. So when it started to happen, I was like, what is she doing? Like, is she like trying to gather them, and then like is she just gonna like jet and like make sure that they can never take her? Or because the one thing is, in this specific scene, Soul looks at May and says, Osha, because her mark is covered with her hair. He doesn't know them well enough to know who they are specifically. So when she is, really close to them crying and looks up at Soul, that's when he notices the mark and he's like, oh, I killed this woman for no reason. Like,
yeah. Well, and I don't think so like, obviously he's like, I killed this woman for no reason, but it's also he thought she was attacking.
Yeah.
So that's why
I am very like, this episode is so like, this is what happens when
nobody communicates properly.
Yes, for one, when nobody communicates properly, but two, our entire lives, we were shown the Jedi are the good guys. The Jedi are the heroes. The Jedi can sometimes make mistakes, but they are in the limelight. They are the heroes. These are the people that you should praise and all these other things. And then as we've gotten older, we've learned Jedi are just people. They are beings that are just like us. They make mistakes and all of these things. They're flawed, whatever. And so you want to be angry, which I am angry at some of these Jedi, but then you look at the mistakes like this and you're like it's splitting hairs and I hate it.
It's good intentions with bad consequences.
Exactly. And this episode has a mess full of them on everybody's part. Kalnaka's, on Torben's, Soul's, and Indara's. Mm-hmm. Everybody, I think, makes a mistake in this episode.
Yep.
And it eventually, like, this is clearly, hey, this is one of the key moments of the downfall of the Jedi. Because, hey, we learn at the very end of this episode, oh, we're going to tell the council this, but we're not going to say this. Like,
and Anastasia even says it. Like, I can't remember the direct quote, but she specifically says, like, this will be the downfall of the Jedi. Like, your assumption for what's going on. It's so interesting, like, the commentary that comes out of the Jedi Order, but of this episode for the Jedi Order. But I like what somebody said, the Jedi Order is the evil part out of this, and the Jedi there's like good Jedi, but then bad Jedi Order because they're telling them all this one thing. And in reality, it is something else completely for the rest of the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's super interesting. But Blue Milk Mama said that Soul reminds her of Elzar in a tweet. And now, especially with what we got in Temptation of the Force, now I am just headcanoning that Soul was the secret love child of Avar and Elzar that got left at the Jedi Order door and then got raised as a Jedi because he was gifted in the Force because of Avar and Elzar.
Okay,
that's my headcanon now.
Let me see her tweet. Let's see.
She didn't even say it. That thought came to me when I saw her tweet. And I was like, I accept this headcanon now. Like, thank you very much. Like,
okay, let's see here. Soul is a conundrum, okay? Because I love Soul because, of course, the actor doing a phenomenal job.
Nope.
With everything. Then you look at him as the master / father-esque figure that he is towards Osha, and you're like, okay. And even when he has like his Jedi isms, like, oh, that's just grief and that's guilt, like, do away with that. You're like, that's just a stupid dad trying to tell their kid get over it, you know? We've all heard that before from our parents.
Yep.
But then you see the decisions that were made here. There's moments in here that Indara and Soul butt heads a lot.
Yep.
And Soul, I think at this point, is a Jedi Master. I'm going to go ahead and make the assumption there. Not necessarily, I can't technically make the assumption, but I'm going to at this point. Because of the way that Indara and him communicate through this episode, makes me think that they grew up together. Almost like a Elzar and Avar and Stellan. So they have history because they joke as well. It's like, oh, this is why I have a Padawan and you don't. And they're kind of like chuckling and all of this. But then, Indara kind of like is like, hey, that wasn't my Padawan feeling that way. That was you. Don't mix his feelings up with yours. It's kind of harsh. And I'm like, what is up her butt? Like, what is going on here? Like, what, like, why is she like talking like this? But then you have to remember after, and of course, this is all the assumption because we have not yet seen the end of Wave 3 of the High Republic books. But we know from then and then sometime now, structurally, things change and Jedi change the way they look at life and their quote unquote job as Jedi. So Indara is kind of one of the first cops, as Adrian would say, in the High Republic that we're seeing. So I'm like, okay, so she is just being the one that's going to enforce all the rules. Like, she's going to make sure that they are on track for everything, right? And then you see Soul making these like, oh, well, I feel a connection with Osha. And then Indara's like, don't get emotionally attached. It's like, oh, don't mistake what she wants with something that you want. It's like, golly, like, chill out, give him a break. Like,
but I can also see it from the emphasis of a rule follower, and Indara feels like she's a more empathetic Jedi where she can feel the emotions that are going on, especially with Torben. And I think she tries to teach in that regard, which is where she and Soul differ a lot. But Indara is not really like the main character in this. Torben is. How did you feel about how Torben.
You know exactly how I felt because I
know,
sent
but
you
you
a
need to tell the
text.
podcast how you
Torben's a
feel
little
about Torben.
bitch. That's what I think. Torben's a little bitch. I'm sorry.
Can you just imagine?
I want to go home. Oh, I miss Carson. Oh, I want to eat something different. Like, dude, like, oh.
Can you imagine if, because that's exactly how Wreath Silas is at the beginning of Into the Dark.
Yes.
But he takes a very different journey than Torben does. What did you think? Is that a parallel that you made?
I see here because I was looking at Blue Milk Mama's tweets, and apparently one of her kids said Torben is dollar store Wreath. I got the same feeling. Again, I didn't get it initially. It wasn't until my second watch that I was like, oh, I'm starting to see a little bit of resemblance with Torben and Wreath here. So I get it. But man, was he pissing me off. He was pissing me off very early in the episode. And then there's this like we see why he like went eyes all black and was kneeling, because Mother Anissa was in his head.
Anisea,
sorry, was in his head. And then like later on in the episode, he's like, "Oh, my mind is fortified. You can't do it again." Blah blah. I'm like, if they even tried, they would definitely do it again, kid.
Because
sorry.
I like somebody on Twitter said this, but it's clear that they remained in the heads of the people that they got into. Because Torben, that's why he chooses to take the Barash vows. He's tormented by what happened. And then Kelnaka's drawings, we were wondering, I was wondering, I can't remember if y'all were wondering about this in that episode, but Kelnaka's drawings in his home on Kofar were the little tattoo markings on Anisea and May.
We noticed it, but we didn't talk much about them. No.
Yeah, and so it's clear that the witches like chose like stay in the head basically and torment their victims basically for the rest of their life. Like, that's deep. But I also like that it was kind of like a vampire trying to come into your home, in that Anisea needed consent to take over its head, basically. I thought that was a really neat touch.
That was very, very interesting. I really dug that. How did you feel about Mother Coral kind of pushing May in the direction?
Pushing, yeah.
leading her in the direction, not pushing. I mean, yes, like May has the anger, she has those feelings, but Mother Coral was like,
go kill your twin sister.
Yeah. Like, how did you feel about that? Like, now seeing it from this side?
It's definitely very violent, considering she specifically told Anisea, I told you I would die. I would rather die than let these Jedi take my kids. Like, isn't that the same thing as killing one of them? Like, essentially, like, you're like saying, like, if the Jedi take them, they're dead, basically. And so I might as well be dead. But then you just told one of them to go kill the other one. And now I get it, like, potentially, like, oh, if I can only have one, then I can only have one. But the Jedi can't have her, basically.
Now here's another question for you. Because I still think somebody was in May's head. And I think it was Mother Coral. May, when she lit the fire, was mesmerized. Like, she was not all there. You look at that scene every single time, and you will see her just like there's nobody home when she's looking at that fire. But then all of a sudden she like blinks out of it, drops the book, and then she freaks out.
I don't know about that because Coral needs the support of the rest of her clan in order to take over Kelnaka. So my thought process is that Anastasia is the most powerful because she's the leader.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody else kind of has to be the supportive narrative unless they can support another witch and like back them up, which is how Coral is able to do Kelnaka. So I don't know about Coral taking over May. I think May is, so if we're going with their one soul and two bodies, leaving out the potential, the replicants of Anastasia, if they're one soul and two bodies, I think May got more of the rage aspect and is able to let that out, which is why what happened. So like she's dead, like she's disassociating when she lights the book on fire, but her only intent is to burn the drawings. So when she realizes, hey, this is out of my control, oh crap, and drops it because she's trying to stamp it out, and then it just catches.
Yeah.
I think that's more what happened. But in specific, with like Coral Coral leading May to kill Osha, that's what I'm wondering with the song. Because the song, specifically the line, part of me will die with you, I'm wondering how that's going to come into play. Because what if, are we going to be left in this last episode where one twin kills the other? And we see the ramifications of that. That's how I'm thinking it's going to play in the song.
I could see that. I could see that happening. And it's very interesting with my theory. Like, because again, they said that the children are our future, meaning that they were supposed to be the leaders of that covenant.
And May confirms that to Andara.
Yeah. And knowing my theory, it's just Mother Anastasia being leader again. That same power. Like it all connects in my head. It's like that makes total sense. But I like how you bring up the conversation between May and Andara. I like this conversation because although you see a lot of like strict, like by the book Andara, she lets down a wall and she's very kind and talking to May. I did like this. Some people can call it a little bit of predatory just because of the way the Jedi are with children. And the connection that people have made with cops, but I still like this because it gives a little bit more insight to Indara's character. And I didn't know exactly how or what I was expecting from May's side of that test or conversation, but like when she straight up said, "Oh, Mom said that there's gonna need a sacrifice," and I was like, "Oh God!" Like, and even both Soul and Andara looked at each other and like, "Okay, yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. Yay, let's continue the test."
I'm sorry. I just saw this on my Twitter feed, and I'm now distracted by this. Sus Theories on Twitter posted this screenshot from the last, or no, 2 episodes ago, with Yord and Osha. And Yord says he gets into your head and he stays there. And Osha says, my mother could do that.
Yeah.
How does Chimere play into this?
Well, and that's still the question that we have because, again, Chimere knows Soul.
Yeah. But how does he know Soul? That's what I'm so frustrated.
Is
Because it's how
Chimera
does Chimera know Soul?
is Chimera the only male member of the coven?
Could be.
I don't know.
But I feel like the coven was like more of it feels like the Night Sisters where they don't want to use males to that extent and they get more powerful from the sister bond.
Well, and I'm pretty sure that Indara and Soul said something about the fact that there is only females in there in this episode. I can't remember exactly
Yeah.
what the quote was. I don't know.
50 women and only 2 children.
Yeah.
Because Soul says I think there's about 50 of them.
Which, by the way, when you first see the flashback in the very beginning of the season, you see the Jedi walk into their ceremony, and you're like, okay, they just walked in. No, they literally broke into their facility. Kalnucka had to slice the elevator open. And
Yep.
slicing is just the other way of saying unlocking. It's just a Star Wars term.
It's hacking.
Yes. Now knowing that, I know why they are on edge. It's like, oh, like, and even Indara's like, oh, pardon us for the intrusion. It's like an understatement. Like, you couldn't. It would have been better if you would have did things the proper way. Knock, say, hey, this is what's going on. Yeah, whatever. But just the way that everybody operated in this episode, everybody was making a mistake. Everybody did everything the wrong way.
Yep.
It's so frustrating sometimes.
So let's talk about 2 scenes that are in episode 3 as well as this episode. So in particular, the first one is when May lights the book on fire. So
Okay.
Matt and I were both curious on this because Matt did not remember May lighting the book on fire. He was just like, I don't remember what he thought. But so May is shown lighting the book on fire, but then the very next scene that you see, the very next shot you see, not the scene, is Osha running to the window for help. So you don't see the full aspect of May trying to put the fire out. You just see her staring at the flame, and then she lights the book on fire. So you never see her face after that.
Yeah.
So that's a difference there. The next scene that Matt and I both wanted to kind of compare was the bridge scene. Because you get
my jaw dropped, Katie.
Right? But the bridge scene in episode 3 proceeds very fast, very much faster than what we get in episode 7. They drew out this scene for episode 7.
Yes. And there's a specific reason why.
Because Soul makes the titular choice.
Katie, my jaw literally dropped. So, we see in episode 3, we see Soul yell for their names. He yells their names, and you see him running around the corner. And then it goes back to the kids.
Yep.
And this episode, it shows they did the shot specifically for this episode that you see him in between them in that cavern opening. In episode 3, you see the bridge kind of like fall. They both stamper a bit, and then they start reaching for each other. In this episode, we learn that it wasn't just by chance that the bridge stopped falling. It was actually Soul keeping them afloat.
Mm-hmm.
And then he let May go. This is what got my jaw to drop. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? All you have to do is get their attention, tell them to run the opposite directions, make a safer choice. And then he goes, oh, well, if the other one's dead, then she has to be mine. Like, it just, it's, again, not with that much dark intentions, I know, but it feels that way.
But it's also the fact that he goes, okay, May saw me kill her mom. And she's already said, mom's dead.
Yes.
To OSHA. So that could totally be something May goes to reveal if May stays alive and OSHA stays alive. Like,
yeah, maybe
May's
she won't.
Never...
Maybe she won't be my Padawan if she learns that I killed her mother.
Mm-hmm. And May, he knows May would never choose to come back with the Jedi after this. Like, so the choice makes sense. He goes, okay, I can still protect OSHA and like take her with me. That's what she wanted. I'm not justifying anything, but like that's probably what went through his head is like, I can still save her. I can't save her.
Well, it even eats him up inside because after the fact, we got to see before OSHA wakes up, which is where we started this scene in episode 3. We see just a few minutes before. We see Torben apologizing because fear and anxiety got the best of him.
Yep.
With wanting to, because we didn't even state that. The whole reason why they bombarded the witches a second time was the fact that
Torben takes the opportunity to leave Brendok. He's like, if we can bring the twins back as proof of the virgins, we can go back to Coruscant.
Yeah. A very selfish move, and fear got the best of him, and he went ahead and went with that. So that happens. He apologizes for it back on the ship. And then Soul tells Indara, I have to confront the council about what I've done. And Indara says, why would you do that to that poor little girl? She is just verbalizing all of the assumptions that we just made about Soul.
Yep.
She is saying, if you do this, she is definitely not going to be a Padawan. She is definitely not going to join the Order. And we all just killed a coven of witches for no freaking reason.
Yep.
So I'm going to tell him this. And again, it's those small little steps to the immediate downfall of the Jedi in the future.
Yep.
It is insane.
Lots of things in this episode. And like we haven't even talked about like the action scene with like the lightsaber fights with like Kelnaka. Like, oh my gosh, that was incredible. Like, I love seeing a Wookiee get to wield a lightsaber.
I really dug this. I dug the action scene. I will say though, I don't like the inclusion of Kelnaka in the entire series because he is ultimately just there to throw his weight around. There is no actual character development with him.
That's why he's getting a comic? Question mark?
I understand that. But when you really think about it, the only reason why they put him in this series, hey, we need somebody really big to be a roadblock for Soul during this confrontation. And
I'm not saying you're wrong, but it's also really cool to get a Wookiee Jedi. But yes, it's like, how do you characterize a Wookiee in that regard too on screen?
Well, you're saying that Chewbacca doesn't have character?
Not as much character as Han, Leia, and Luke. Like,
not as much,
because
but
you can't. You have to feed him through an interpreter. Like,
yes, but they barely did that in this episode. That's what I mean. Like, he maybe spoke twice, and then there was a little bit of like, so the first time he like growls at Torben, and Indara was like, "Oh, it's rude to
insult
uh
to Wookiee's cooking.
yeah, to insult a Wookiee's cooking." And then he says something to Indara when they're out on the field, and then Indara says, "Okay, we'll meet you back on the ship." So there you can assume he was saying, "Oh, I'm done here," or whatever for that scenario. But there wasn't an interpretation to literally say, "Oh, he was saying this," like they do but in whenever Chewbacca's on screen for the original series,
Yeah.
as well as the sequel series. And then also in freaking what am I thinking of? The High Republic with Buryaga. Like that is a little bit more direct because we do see oh shoot. I forgot his name.
Belle?
Bell there as the translator as well.
Yeah. No, and I get it, but also like Indara doesn't have that much characterization either, but the only reason she has what she has is because she's human and she like understandable to us. So I get it. But I think that's also why they chose him for the comic to give him a little background. So I think that's out in August, I want to say.
That sounds right.
Anything else for this episode?
Trying to think. Oh, how did you feel about Indara? Like, we were wondering, okay, how are all these cult members or these coven members, all these sisters, dead on the ground? They weren't dead at that point. Or do you think Indara killed them?
So, I don't think Indara killed them. I think well, okay, so technically I guess maybe she could have killed them by getting them out of Kelnaka's brain. That would be the way she would have killed them.
See, it's not very clear there. So for me, I thought of that as well. It's like, oh, does the connection breaking forcibly kill them, or are they knocked unconscious and then therefore unable to escape, and then the smoke gets into their lungs, the whole facility falls down on them, and then they die? Like,
yep, especially because you have no elevator to get out.
exactly. Because May literally breaks it and says nobody can get in or out.
Yep. The forceful breaking of the connection could also explain why Mother Coral, we don't see her body. As if she's stuck in Kelnaka's brain. And like she died that way. But Coral's body still isn't in this episode at the end.
No. Oh, that's interesting. So everybody's theory of Coral being the sole reason why Kymir could literally be Mother Coral.
Ooh, yeah.
But oh my god. Oh, that's even weirder. Oh, okay. I'm just gonna verbalize it and then you tell me what you think. We know that Leslie Headland likes the idea of the seduction of the Force. And so there has been this idea that Kymir and Osha are going to have some connection possibly throughout the finale of this episode. My theory is that Osha and May are literally Mother and Asaya. If that is the case, Mother Coral being in Chimere is literally just being with her lover Osha / Mother and Asaya. It's
don't know
weird.
about that.
It's weird because Mother Coral has also said that she birthed them. So it is still her child that she is wanting to. If this is all just it's weird. I don't know if I could like that. That would be one hell of a cliffhanger. Like, ooh. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this anymore.
All right, and on that note, Clay, where can they find you?
Of course, you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter and any and other social media. You can follow Ranger Alliance on Twitter as well. Go check out mine and Joe's last episode. We're going to be actually recording another one this week. So check that out. What else do I need to plug? I feel like there was something else. Oh, by the way, listeners of this specific podcast that are also part of our Patreon, I want to apologize for not putting up the episodes on Patreon early for you guys. There has since been, for a couple months now, a transition on how we upload things. And I just completely spaced on Patreon. So that is going to be a thing now. It's going to be up immediately after this episode. You will get it all unedited, all raw. So you will get the mess ups, you'll get the laughs, you'll get everything. So that's going to be on the Patreon, and then everybody else will get the cleaner versions, of course. So there is that. So Katie, what about yourself?
Y'all, you can find me on most social media platforms. I'm just at Slice of Katie. This show you can find on Twitter. It is at Star Wars Alliance without the A and the Wars. Very important. Don't forget it. Don't forget that same username. You can send us an email at Gmail, that username at gmail.com. So Star Wars Alliance, no A in the Wars, at gmail.com. You can also shoot us a text or leave us a voicemail. Just don't forget to leave you a nickname or something for us to address you by at 830-538-4828. Remember, we are back here next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to talk about the Acolyte Season 1 finale next Wednesday. So with that, I want to wish everyone a great day or night, whatever time of day you are listening or watching, and we will see y'all next time. May the Force be with you.